Guys, I was wrong about Mimic Tier. I was saying that it was super cheese, you could beat the game first try, every single boss, but not until the DLC. After fighting all these DLC bosses, I don't think the Mimic Tier is even remotely cheese anymore. Half these bosses, you can't even use the Mimic Tier as soon as you go into the fight because they just bomb rush you straight forward. You got no chance to even use it. You have to treat the Mimic Tier like you're trying to find an opening to an attack, and even then, you can barely get it off just because how slow it is to summon. And the bosses do so much damage inside of this DLC, your Mimic Tier is bound to die very fast. Not even getting to phase 2 the most of these bosses. So I gotta say, sure they do help staggering the boss a lot, but that is kind of the only thing they're really used for with the bosses. Because I think the bosses are actually programmed to not go after the Mimic either. Every single time I'm just trying to run away, trying to heal, trying to get my Mimic to take aggro, he does not take aggro. And these bosses rush you down so hard, they pretend the Mimic isn't even there. Half the time, I feel like I'm still doing a solo boss fight even when I have the Mimic. So honestly, using the Mimic or not, definitely still easier with the Mimic, but I wouldn't say that's a complete cheese game-breaking thing like it is in the original. So I gotta say to all the people that are using the Mimic Tier, definitely don't feel bad about yourself with all these stupid people online. Everyone who uses the Mimic Tier didn't actually beat the game because they didn't play that how I played it. Where I played level 1, bare fist fight every single boss, and you use a Mimic and actual leveled up? You leveled up? You're not good at the game, are you? You leveled up. We don't do that around these parts. No gear, nothing, just fists. Like, honestly, I don't really get half the people who play this game. I feel like if you're trying having fun inside this game, you get shamed for it immediately. Like, come on, man. It's not the people who have some fun. You don't have to, like, bombard them just because they're using a Mimic or just because they're using some meta build that they find fun. And I know inside the DLC too, you get the Revered Ashes. They buff the Mimic even more than how it is in the base game. So technically, they should still be super OP since you're getting more buffs for them. It's kind of like making it to where they're back to, like, their pre-patch damage and HP. But now they just can't use, like, the healing items still. But, I mean, like, these bosses, man, if they, like, hard rush your Mimic, if they actually get aggro, your Mimic just dies. Like, even with all the buffs to their HP, your Mimic ain't standing a chances to these people. Especially Promise Consort Radahn. Bro, this guy does so much damage that your Mimic doesn't even stand a chance. The only way you can really get Mimic that far in the fight is if you summon him in phase 2. But that is quite impossible unless you want to tank his, like, super light beam move or whatever, because you get no openings on this fight to summon Mimic. I swear, it's actually terrible. Now, I don't know if there are Ashes that are better than the Mimic. I just know that the Mimic is the most greatest summon in the game, and you're kind of like supposedly cheating if you use it. But like, let's be real, I definitely think that these bosses were programmed for you to use Mimic rather than fighting him by yourself. That's why they added all these upgrades to your summoning Ashes, because they're actually trying to, because they realize that the Mimic is super broken. So they're actually making the bosses gear toward you summoning Mimic, which I honestly find to be super cool, because then using a Mimic isn't super cheese. You're not winning like immediately, so it's not like the easiest game of all time when you're using Mimic, but also it still gives you like a good challenge if you're playing solo or you just don't want to summon a Mimic at all. It's still good. It still gives you a good balance of challenging both ways. Sure, the Mimic's easier, but since they're geared toward you using a Mimic and they actually don't really go aggro towards your Mimic as much inside the DLC, I feel like it's honestly great that they did that, because they're actually making it to where you can use any single build in the game and you won't just be like this most broken person of all time. You can still have fun using the meta stuff. Even, I guess if you want to be super broken, then I guess it's still kind of bad. But I know there's definitely stuff inside of this game you could like be super broken to using. Like, one way you can still get super broken is use the Carrion Sovereignty. That Ash of War actually just does infinite poise damage, and it's actually busted. It's literally insane. It also does insane damage. But I mean, if you and your Mimic using that, then, well, you're definitely just using a busted build at that point, because you're just like stun-locking every single boss doing infinite damage. But I mean, just using a Mimic, just trying to go for the basic, you know, your normal build, not looking up all the strats on to be super OP, then you can have a fun time using Mimic and not be called out for, because it's not cheating anymore. Let's be real. But yeah, I basically wanted to say, don't feel bad using a Mimic, because this DLC is still hard with or without it. So yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. And if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe. It'll mean a lot to me if you did. So now I'm probably going to go back to being sad, actually, because I beat the DLC and I have nothing else to do. I hate good games. They make you feel bad after beating them. Just feel empty inside. Bye-bye.